Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to another edition of RebelWatch. I'm Carson Waire. With me, NewsWatch sports reporters Keiran Lencheski and Jayson Kern in here hanging out on this Friday. We appreciate you making us a part of your weekend, and we thank you so much for tuning in today. Pretty exciting slate of stuff to talk about. The women's basketball team in the Sweet 16, obviously still dancing. Big news here, a lot of excitement on campus about that. MLB is getting underway. We're going to be talking about that. Some big free agent acquisitions this offseason. Obviously, a couple trades, a couple guys injured. Who's going to win the World Series? All that stuff will be discussed. And we're going to talk about some local baseball here, too, with the Ole Miss baseball team and the Ole Miss softball team. A lot of stuff to look forward to in today's edition of the program. Going to start things off with the big story here in Oxford, the women's basketball team in the Sweet 16, as we mentioned. Taking on Louisville tonight. They're playing in Seattle. The game starts at 9 our time. Be sure to tune into ESPN if you want to catch that. Jayson, just a little preview of the game. What do we have to do to get the job done in March to the Elite Eight?
Coach Yo is loving her defense. She's all about defense, all about getting kills. If you lock down Haley Van Lith, there's no reason we do not win this basketball game.
Definitely. And, look, this team riding some momentum, Keiran, coming off the big win, the upset win. Not many people gave us a chance against Stanford. We went into their place, got the job done. Talk a little bit about that win. What were we able to do to get the job done there?
No, definitely, Carson. And I think a lot of people going into this game is not many people had a lot of faith on the Lady Rebs in this one. I mean, when Coach Yo took over in 2018, and she had that 2019-2020 season where she went 7-23 and overall 0-16 in the SEC, I think, at that time and right now, a lot of people are questioning, what the Lady Rebs can do. And I think with that number 8 seed and that upset over the number 1 seed, I think that just kind of showed a lot of what Coach Yo is telling everybody, and that's that we defend. And I think that's really important.
Definitely, yeah, and defense is what really gets you far in March, especially when you get into the later stages of these tournaments. Ole Miss had never beaten a 1 seed in the tournament, by the way, guys, before that game. Big-time upset win for us, and definitely made us all proud. Coach Yo works her team really hard, and it was really great to see them go in there and cash out and make their effort pay off the hard work they've been putting in so far this season.
One of my favorite quotes after that game was, this is for the people with $1 and a dream. I mean, what an inspiration she's been so far. She's putting Ole Miss basketball on the map. This is going to go wonders for recruiting in the future, and who knows what this program is going to go after this year.
Definitely. And Keiran, Haley Van Lith, as you mentioned earlier, Jayson, a spectacular player, averaging 19.5 per game, coming off a nice performance against Texas in the round of 32. Keiran, how special of a player is she?
I mean, she really is. She is so special, and I think that going into this game, another player that to really keep an eye on is Olivia Cochran, who leads the Cardinals with 6.3 rebounds per game as well as 8 points. So I think that's another leader that's definitely someone that they have to look out for. But it should be a good game. But I think going back to what Jayson said about Coach Yo and how inspirational she is, and that quote that she said at that post-game interview of $1 and a dream, and I think it was really important to say that, she's captured the lives of these players and just Oxford, Mississippi itself. So it's really important. We just need to go in there tonight and defend and do what we've been doing, and I think that's something we're really capable of.
Definitely, and in the recent years here, just basketball at Ole Miss not necessarily been a sport that gets a ton of attention from students, but this run by this team, it's grabbed the attention of the whole school. Excitement around campus, you see kids wearing the shirts around and everything. Yeah, it's been fantastic. You gotta love it. And as we mentioned, great season so far here, and just some positives of the season so far, and it's been a magical run. It really has.
No, it really has, and I think going back to Coach Yo, I mean, I don't mean to keep emphasizing it, but honestly, it comes from the top, and your leadership is Coach Yo, and I think that she has such an inspiration on these girls, but beyond these girls, I mean, the fans, the people that are showing up to these games when before there weren't really that many, and I think just a lot of people can see how inspirational Coach Yo really is to everyone, and I think that, she's letting people know, and she's letting us know, and students, players, that if you have a dream, go after it. You know what I mean? I mean, she said that she's just a Bohemian girl who had a dream, and she is, here for it, and she never gave up. And I think that's really inspirational to really everybody that's in the sports world and beyond.
Absolutely, Keiran. Yeah, a lot of real-life applications, too, from this effort that we've seen from the coaching all the way down to the players from this Ole Miss women's basketball team. Well, we wish them the best of luck tonight. We hope things go well and they march on to the Elite Eight and still continue to dance in this NCAA tournament. Going to take a short break. After that, we'll come back with some talk about the Ole Miss baseball team. Early in the season, ranked number 13 right now, and a little bit of a losing skid. We'll have the recap of that and a little bit of a look ahead.
It's that time of the year again, fellas. When the mornings are hot, the afternoons are hotter, and football is on its way back. Now, games is won by the battles fought in August. Everyone that's not revered as an Ole Miss legend has been in your shoes before, trying to survive that Mississippi heat, competing for a spot, and knowing the sacrifice that it takes to make it in this league. You go into this money collection of men from 100 different places, and if you work, you emerge from it as one team with one goal and one heartbeat. The SEC awaits you. And if they don't know who you are now, they will soon.
My passion is journalism. Here at the University of Mississippi, we produce a nightly half-hour newscast, broadcasting regionally on cable and globally on the World Wide Web. It's the kind of experience that is preparing me to walk into any news station in the country with the skills and abilities I need to succeed. So it's not just preparing me for the real world, it is the real world.
Where are we gonna go?
Someplace warm. A place where the beer flows like wine. Where beautiful women instinctively flock like the salmon of Capistrano. I'm talking about a little place called
Oxford, Mississippi.
To see it is to believe it. You hear about it, but you just have to see the party.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grove. The sound and fury are here. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Did he got a toe down?
Pageantry, the pride, the pomp is unmatched and unrivaled.
This stadium has come unhinged.
And welcome back to Rebel Watch. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us a part of your weekend. Keiran Lencheski, Jayson Kern, NewsWatch sports reporters in here hanging out on this Friday. Going to talk some Ole Miss baseball now. Teams hit kind of a tough skid recently, but, you know, this is the national champion we're talking about. And kind of a similar thing went down last year, so not a whole lot of panic around town. But, Keiran, what's been going on recently? A tough series against Vanderbilt, a tough midweek game against Jacksonville State, just some question marks currently.
Definitely, and we've had a lot of bumps on the road. I definitely say that until we took it back home this week against Arkansas Pine Bluff. But I think, honestly, you know, we lost 10-6 to Jacksonville State. They're currently 7-10 on the season. I think pitching that night was just not their strong suit. I mean, it started with Jordan Vera, then Braden Jones came in from the bullpen, and to finish it all, Mason Morris pitched a scoreless inning in the bottom of the 8th. That game, you know, Groff, he just finished 3 for 5 in the loss, while Alderman and Harris, you know, each collected 2 RBIs. So I think definitely not their strongest game. And then, you know, moving it on to Nashville, I think, you know, that 3-game sweep, you know, that was the opener for SEC play. So I think it really, you know, expanded the views a little bit for the players. They have a lot of young talent. However, as Peyton Chatagnier said the other day in a post-game interview, he said that, you know, there's also a lot of older, mature people on the team that's really going to help them out. So, you know, we look forward to it. They bounced back against Arkansas Pine Bluff, 11-1. I think, you know, this weekend they start SEC play. So, you know, looking forward to it.
Definitely, Keiran. The SEC, a tough place to play baseball this year. A lot of really, really highly ranked teams with a ton of talent, you know, MLB draft type talent on those squads, and we're facing them just about every weekend here for the foreseeable future. And Jayson, you know, we've got the tools, though, to handle some of these opponents. What's been going right so far this season? But despite this little skid, there's been definitely some positives.
The bats, I mean, I feel like this year the ball is flying out. You got Kemp with a bunch of home runs. Peyton Chatagnier out of nowhere. I don't really say out of nowhere, but he's putting the ball out with ease. And Jacob Gonzalez is hitting the ball. And look at Ethan Groff. The Tulane transfer coming, I wouldn't say out of nowhere because he had a great season last year, but what an addition he's been, filling the gap for the guys we lost last year. Like Kevin Graham was a big bat that we lost, but Ethan Groff has been nothing but spectacular since he's joined this Rebel team.
Definitely. Yeah, some of these new transfers making a whole lot of noise, and that's been needed. You know, like you said, we lose, you know, some important players going into this season, and there's been some guys come in picking up right where they left off. So speaking of big-time performers, Jayson, we'll start with you. Who's your too early team MVP?
it's got to be Ethan Groff. I mean, he's been spectacular. He's hitting the ball, he's fielding, he makes every single play out in the outfield. It's got to be Ethan Groff. His bat is much needed in this time, but when it comes to Florida this weekend, it's going to be much needed in this lineup.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I mean, that's your too early team MVP, but I think for me, mine's really Calvin Harris. I think, I think everything that, he's doing, I mean, if you look at his batting average, I mean, it's, yes, it's just 2 statistics, but I think really at the end of the day, I mean, he's kind of all over in a matter of words, I mean, being a catcher, but I think that he really is my too early team MVP, but, I also thought about Alderman, so we'll see how this season's going to go.
And going back to this little losing skid that we're on, it's no worry. I mean, people don't think about Hunter Elliott. He's still not back. When we get his arm back for those Friday night games, that is going to be huge on Friday nights to make a statement Friday night in SEC play, and hopefully we get to see him back soon.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing Elliott back soon would be a big, big boost for this team. Definitely need some help in the pitching department. There's just some questions so far this season in the bullpen as to who can really come in and lock it down. Some of those questions have yet to be answered, but as the season rolls on, get into some SEC games, maybe a couple extra inning games where you stretch the bullpen. It's where you kind of get those sort of answers, and then you never know. There could be a couple guys out of the bullpen that really pop out and show that they can
Mason Nichols
get
has
the
been
job
great so
done.
far.
Exactly. Some guys that maybe early in the season you didn't think about, but out of nowhere the guy pops out and is a shutdown guy out of the pen for the team. Every team needs that.
And the big question is when Hunter Elliott comes back, will Doherty go back to the bullpen, or will it become that Saturday night and will Grayson Saunier go to the bullpen? What will happen in that situation?
Definitely an interesting thing because Doherty, as we've shown, he's got electric stuff, and when you put him in there and say go an inning or two, he really lights it up. But he can also stretch it out, and stamina's been good, and he can go 4, 5, 6 innings, and that's been a big help for Coach Bianco's squad. Well, we're going to come back after a short break with some discussion about the Ole Miss softball team. Speaking of hot bats, they have been hitting the cover off the ball recently. Some discussion about that after a short break.
Ole Miss 18th NCAA tournament appearance.
This is fun, folks, as Baker's peeling it. Little heat check. Snow Collins for 3. Bring it up.
Said, I love Madison Scott.
Ole Miss Rebels are having a lot of fun, and you can see why.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at SheCanSTEM.com.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy. What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. So how does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on it.
Legacy isn't just about where you're from, it's about where you're going. So where are you going?
I'm going to be the first in my family to graduate.
I'm going to make a difference.
Just like my granddad.
I'm going to make the bestseller list.
And I'm going to help him get there.
I'm going to win a championship.
Again! I'm going to lock the vault! Hotty toddy!
I'm going to take the next step.
I'm going to bring them to their feet.
I'm going to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Build your legacy.
Welcome back to Rebel Watch. About halfway down the program here, going to shift things. Stay on the diamond, though. We're going to talk about the softball team. Carson Waire, Keiran Lencheski, Jayson Kern in here hanging out on this Friday. We appreciate you taking the time to tune in and spend some time with us here. So the softball team early in the season, tough time getting the bats going, losing a couple games that are kind of head scratchers. Mount St. Mary's a loss in there that you're kind of like, what's really going on with this team? But recently, the bats have been coming alive, definitely hitting the cover off the ball. Some big-time performers, some names getting slid into the lineup and hitting their first home run in their career for Ole Miss. Some performers that we did not expect, but definitely been a lot of fun to watch this team. And Jayson, just a recap of the last week or two, it's been definitely a turnaround for this team.
100%. When you look at this team, the struggles have been there in the beginning. That doesn't define what this season's been. They're coming off a tough sweep over Tennessee, but that's okay. The more run rules they have, it looks just better on the postseason resume. So is there anything they can do to build this postseason resume? I feel like this team has a shot of going somewhere far, especially with how tough the SEC is this year.
No, definitely. And I think it's just something so important, too, because, we're generating such an offense now, which we didn't have, like Carson said, to Mount St. Mary's point. They're in the MAC conference, SEC, not to compare conferences. It's just a different level and a different type of play. And I think now we're finally, using that run rule victories. And I really think that, we're generating that offense that we really needed.
Definitely. And, that can be a big confidence boost for teams because even looking back, and even if all the starters didn't play or whatever, seeing that you only beat a quote-unquote weaker team by like 2 or 3 runs can kind of mess with your head. Going out there and really sticking it to them and beating them by the run rule, although it might be ugly, it can really help with the team's confidence and sort of assert, okay, we know that we're good enough to play up here in the SEC with the big dogs, and we know that when we get a team that we're supposed to beat, we handle them well. Some talk about the SEC and how tough it is, Keiran. I mean, just an absolute challenge this year. Talked about it being tough in baseball. It's equally as tough in softball, isn't it?
It definitely is. Just as equal, if not more. I mean, it's just such a style of play that's so hard. There's so much competition in it. I mean, if you looked at stats right now recently, it's 6-0 for Tennessee at they're top in the rank, but they're really only ranked number 4 according to D1 softball. So I think the rankings mean something. However, Carson, you said team morale a little bit when you're losing to those weaker teams, and this competition in SEC play is just it's unbeatable sometimes for some teams. So I think that's really important to focus on those wins, but also learn on those losses.
And starting tonight, we have a huge series against LSU, who come in ranked number 10 in the nation. But don't let number 10 fool you. They're only 2-4 in SEC play. So being at home in Oxford, hopefully get some momentum. Hopefully have some good crowds here in Oxford. Hopefully people show up after maybe going to a couple of baseball games. So please go to these softball games because the team's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, definitely. Spring break being over, too. Students are anxious to get out around Oxford and do something. The weather's looking it's going to be pretty decent as well. It's been pretty cold here in Oxford, but it's looking like it's picking up. Starting today, we've got a nice 80-degree day here in town, and then this weekend it's going to carry all the way through. So definitely look to get out to the softball game and support the team. Keiran, just a little bit about LSU. As you mentioned, ranked number 10 in the country, super powerful, super talented team. Just a little breakdown of them. What's going on with them?
Right. I think, like I said, going back, to all sports, I mean, your leadership starts from the top, and this is the 12th season for head coach Beth Torina. I think it's really important. LSU, they're ranked number 10 according to D1 softball. So I think there is a lot of momentum that LSU is bringing to Oxford this time around. I mean, they're 24-5 on the year so far. So, I think ranked number 10, they've had some losses. Their most recent game was a loss. However, they're looking to bounce back. So it should be a tough matchup. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think if we just keep up on our strong offense that we've been having lately, I think it's going to be a really tight game.
Definitely going to be an interesting series. Ole Miss looking to keep their momentum going. LSU, as Keiran mentioned, coming off a loss, trying to sort of get the wheels turning again. Looking for some home cooking. Hopefully, take 2 out of 3 or even sweep this series. Get some good pitching, bats keep it alive, and I see no reason why that couldn't happen. So we're going to take a short break. We'll come right back with some talk about the MLB. The season gets underway next week. Some big-time free agents hit the market this offseason. Some of them stayed put. Some of them moved to new teams. Some shocking trades and stuff. The World Baseball Classic has us all amped up about the start of the Major League season, and we will have a preview of it right here on Rebel Watch when we come back.
The dynamic freshman is starting to make his impact.
Dagger
So I'm going
with the shot clock down to 1.
That 3-ball drops for Jamin Brakefield.
Fagan from the corner with a triple. Burrell for 3, and that's a big response. 3-ball, yes. Miss shooting lights out of the pavilion.
And give him one more. Wow. Alley-oop.
No, you can't teach that. Well, that should give Ole Miss a boost.
Creating a legacy takes time.
takes dedication, spirit, and a greater vision. That vision starts here at the University of Mississippi. What will you be remembered by? Your character, your contributions, your friendship. Your legacy will define who we are now and who we are becoming for our state, our students, and our future. Ole Miss, build your legacy.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are rebels. For more than 160 years, we've been accomplishing the impossible, from conducting the world's first lung transplant to helping prove Einstein was right. From preserving the past to saving the future. We are Mississippi's flagship university, a place where passion and learning unite, where friends become family, where small-town charm meets world-class innovation. We are the University of Mississippi. We are Ole Miss.
And welcome back to Rebel Watch. Winding down this edition of the program, Carson Waire, Keiran Lencheski, Jayson Kern in here. Going to talk some MLB now as we wrap things up. The World Baseball Classic just ended, and it was a really, really outstanding tournament for baseball. Piqued a lot of people's interest and generated a ton of excitement. You had Mexico with, all these teams had a good amount of MLB players on them for the most part. Mexico made a great run when not a lot of people expected them to. Japan, of course, stayed steady throughout the whole thing, and they eventually defeated the U.S. in the final game. Trout striking out with Ohtani on the mound. I mean, just different matchups and different scenarios happening that were great for the game, generated a lot of excitement, and definitely, probably made some new fans out of some people that probably didn't watch a lot of baseball to begin with. And it's perfect timing because the season is right around the corner. Opening day is next week, and there are some new faces on some new teams, Keiran.
Yes, there are. I mean, a lot of trading, a lot of free agency, but also a lot staying put too, which also changes the game just as much. But I think one that I really want to talk about is Aaron Judge. I mean, the Yankees, they got him back. I mean, it was, kind of a nail-biter there at a moment because he had a nice deal from the Padres. However, the Yankees are sealing the deal because they have a new pact, a 9-year pact, actually, that's worth $360 million, which is reportedly less than the Padres offered. However, it's more per game. So I think that's really it. And I think also New York City as a whole. I mean, more people are going to New York City than they are going to San Diego. So I think a lot of people are happy that Aaron Judge is staying there. However, going to Philadelphia, Trey Turner, he's at the Phillies. What a great day to be a Phillies fan for sure. I definitely would say that. But he has a 11-year, $300 million contract that he has with the Phillies. Manager Rob Thompson, he said that Turner will start as the starting season hitter this season while Bryce Harper recovers from Tommy John surgery.
Definitely. So, and Turner coming off a massive performance in the World Baseball Classic as well. Was probably the best player for the U.S., the team MVP in the opinion of most people. He had an outstanding tournament, Jayson. And what are some other moves that maybe piqued your interest?
I feel like one of the craziest offseason moves that's happened in recent history was the Carlos Correa situation. He had a deal from the Giants, and he got his physical, came back. A lot of questions, so the Giants are like, not so much. The Mets pounced on that, and weirdly enough, they had the same exact guy give a physical who said his first one was a positive, or whatever the bad outcome is, and then he ended up not getting a deal with the Mets, so two teams he signed with, or didn't sign with, but agreed to terms with, and then ended up not being on that team just to go back to Minnesota. I mean, what a crazy situation. And then you see Jacob deGrom leaving the Mets, going to the Rangers. I don't really think anyone saw that coming. Most people thought he was going to stay with the Mets or even go to the Giants, but that was crazy to see. And now the Mets signing the Cy Young winner from last year, Justin Verlander, maybe fill some shoes from last year. People are saying he's getting a little old, but we'll see how he pitches this year for the Mets.
Definitely. Well, he did not look old last year. That is for sure. Put together an outstanding year. I think Josh Bell to Cleveland is a pretty intriguing move. A guy that not a lot of people like to talk about. Played in a smaller market and a team that was pretty bad in D.C. for most of last year, got traded at the deadline, struggled a little bit in San Diego, but overall, I mean, switch hitter, a guy that can really put the bat on the ball, and he's got a good amount of pop in that bat, too. A pretty good pickup.
Very underrated bat.
Definitely.
He had a couple home runs against the Mets in the postseason. He's extremely underrated, and he's a good fielder also.
Definitely. And Jason, talk about big free agents, but how about some guys that put together a rookie campaign last year or going into their third year that are really looking to turn a corner this year and really rev it up? The future of the game.
I mean, the biggest person that pops up is Julio Rodriguez. The whole hitting bombs in the home run derby just to lose to Soto, and everyone should have thought he won it, but I do think that he will win it next year if he comes back and plays. He's got a crazy bat. He's extremely fast. I wouldn't say underrated. I think he's perfectly rated. I think he is extremely talented just on all phases in the game, and I think he is just one player to look out for this year. Definitely.
And the future of the game is in good hands. We got, Rodriguez, as you mentioned. We got Bobby Witt, Adley Rutschman. Some big pitching prospects coming up this year. You got Espino, you got Paulo Lopez, you got Grayson Rodriguez. Some big-time arms coming up to make some impacts on these teams.
I wouldn't sleep on Kodai Senga either.
Definitely.
The Japanese pitcher going to the Mets. He's a little older, but this is his first MLB, so it's always those Japanese pitchers that come out, start throwing some crazy ghost ball, fork balls that no one has ever seen before, so that should be interesting to see how he pitches this year.
Yeah, definitely. Japan's pitching looked outstanding in the WBC, too. You got Sasaki, the young guy, throwing 102 miles an hour, striking out Randy Rosarino. You got Yamamoto out of the bullpen. Japan has got some great pitching, and, we might see some of those guys come over to the MLB in the coming years. Of course, the international free agents, as ever, they're always going to be attractive to these GMs, always going to be guys that are, they're sought after for sure in the offseason.
And after that game against the U.S., you already know half those players, probably almost all of those players, getting phone calls from the league because what a performance on the biggest stage. I mean, how can these GMs and MLB not fall in love with these guys on that Japan team?
Definitely. And Keiran, how about a team this year that you think is going to make some noise despite being a little bit overlooked? Maybe some, might not necessarily win the World Series, but might make a little push there, make some noise.
Yes, I definitely think I'm going to have to say the Chicago Cubs. I think, they're playing, I don't want to so much call it a weaker division, but to a point, it's a lower division of their play. And I think that as much as that's important, I think they also put in a ton of money in their free agency. And I think that's so important, too, because I feel like the Cubs are going to come out here a little bit. And I feel that with them using all the money in free agency, I think something you have to remember is, they may not be playing, out of the entire season, how many games there are. Is sometimes what makes them have these playing in the lower division teams is they can keep their athletes healthy. You know what I mean? And I think that's something so important as opposed to pounding on some of the known teams that we do know. I think how well can these teams keep their players healthy? And,
Definitely.
At the end of the day, that's really what matters.
Definitely. The Cubs made some big moves this offseason. You go get Bellinger, you go get Tyone. And then you keep, you do lose Contreras, that's for sure. That's a big blow for them. But keep Nico Horner, who was an outstanding player in the National League last year. Definitely a guy that can hit. He's fast, he can run, he can field, he can do it all. Jason, how about you? How about a sleeper team for you?
It's got to be the Angels. The Angels have not made the playoffs since 2014. They have the best two players in the league. Like you said, it's all about staying healthy. 162 games is a long, long season. You got Shohei, pitchers get hurt pretty frequently, and to lose a bat like him hurts. Trout has some injuries over the past couple years, but if those two can stay healthy, there's no reason they shouldn't make a little run this year.
Definitely. Another team to keep your eyes on is the Texas Rangers. You go get DeGrom, and then, arguably the best middle infield in baseball with Semien and Seager if they can stay healthy. You got some guys in the outfield that can really hit the cover off the ball. Garcia's a big-time power hitter. You never know. Poor record last year, but maybe they turn things around. And then the Baltimore Orioles coming off an 83-win season. AL East is a tough division, but everyone plays everyone this year, so we will get scaled back on the amount of teams that times the division teams will be playing each other. Orioles might cash in on that a little bit. Got some great young players, Rutschman, Henderson, Grayson Rodriguez coming up. Definitely a team that could make some noise and make a push. Probably not win that division, but maybe they jump over the Rays or the Blue Jays, or definitely the Red Sox this year. The Red Sox are looking for a little bit of a down year by their terms. And guys, we're going to move on. How about some World Series picks? Way too early, obviously, but if you had to pick one team, Jason, who is that team?
It's got to be the Mets. The Mets, I feel like with Diaz going down in the World Baseball Classic, it just hurts, and it's going to fuel this team. They got veteran leadership by Verlander, Scherzer. Those dudes have been around so long. Lindor is a great clubhouse guy. Alonso's got a great bat. You have the reigning batting champion, Jeff McNeil. Underrated outfield. I don't see why this team should make a run. Bullpen is going to be key, losing Diaz. If they can get some guys, maybe at the trade deadline, maybe a couple guys before the season starts, pick them up off waivers. I don't see any reason why this team shouldn't make a run. They got eliminated in the first round, the wild card against the Padres, and that just kind of hurt on their home field after having a 101-win season. Look to see them bounce back this year.
Yep, and I think to that point, I think my pick for that is I'm going Phillies. I mean, I think Phillies, we have Trey Turner. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, you're going to have Bryce Harper coming back after surgery, so that's interesting. But I think we were just there, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of young talent, and I feel that we can really make that same run again, win the NLS, go to the World Series. I mean, unfortunately fell short to Houston, but I think really my team is going to be the Phillies. I think we're young. I feel like there's a lot of young talent up and coming. I feel we're pretty strong.
Definitely. Going and adding Taijuan Walker is another great move for them too. Good sinker ball pitcher, guy that can really bolster that starting rotation that was already pretty solid last year. We saw that in the playoffs through some guys that we really didn't expect. Ranger Suarez, guys like that come in and really throw a gem. Some guys that we were not expecting to get big performances
from. Don't sleep on Gregory Soto in that bullpen.
Absolutely. Big pickup for them. Always nice. Now they got two of the best left-handed relievers in the game with him and Alvarado. That's big.
The Phillies bullpen's always been a struggle, so it should be interesting to see how they come out this year.
Absolutely. It's rare for a team to have two great left-handed relievers as well. That's a big step for them to be able to, one guy's on short rest, okay, you got another guy that's just as good and up to the task. My pick for the World Series, I was going to go with the Dodgers, but after some, they lose Trey Turner, then the Gavin Lux injury, I've decided I'm going to go with the Cardinals, a team that not a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people have them making the playoffs, obviously, but I think the Contreras addition is big for them. I think he's going to really help out that starting rotation. They got a great infield. Tommy Edman at second base, a super underrated player, and I got them taking home the trophy this year. Now, guys, let's get some MVP predictions. Keiran, for you?
That's a really tough one. I've been kind of, going back and forth at some of them, but I think I'm going to go, honestly, I really feel it's just a Phillies time the entire time. I'm going Trey Turner again. I really am. I have a lot of faith in it, and it's, obviously looking at all of the different teams, but I really feel that Trey Turner.
Definitely. Well, if he's playing the way he was in the WBC, it might be a runaway MVP season for Trey Turner. Jason, how about you?
If you watch the World Baseball Classic, the answer is obvious. It's going to be Shohei Ohtani. What a star he is. He pitches over 100 miles an hour. He's got under 3.0 ERA. He can hit the ball. He can smack the ball out of the ballpark. He does it both sides of the ball. There's no reason he shouldn't win MVP. Some people say he got snubbed by Judge, but you're not beating Judge this season last year, and it's hard to not give an MVP to a guy who does it both.
Definitely, and I'm in the same boat as Jason. I'm picking Shohei Ohtani. The voters took a year off of him last year because of Judge's historic, incredible season. I get that, but this year, he's truly the most valuable player. If you could pick one guy in Major League Baseball to start a team with, he's your guy. He can help you out so much both ways. Well, we thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Rebel Watch. We're here Fridays at 5 o'clock. Off for spring break last week, but obviously the rest of the spring, we are here every Friday at 5. Carson Waire, Keiran Lencheski, Jayson Kern, thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in to the women's basketball game tonight. See if they can march to the Elite Eight and keep dancing. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.